I did a live stream yesterday and it was over an hour and I was able to address a lot of stuff that my followers are interested in. I'm going to do some follow up for some other questions that have come up that I was not able to address in the live stream. I don't think I'll be doing live streams a lot because, as you can tell, the video was very poor quality. The audio was okay, but the video, apparently I don't have a strong enough internet connection to successfully do live streams. I might do one later, but it'll be probably pretty crappy as far as the video part, you know. There will be no synchronization between what I say, you know, with my mouth and what you're seeing on the screen. Let me address some questions that were brought up. Somebody says, you're kidding about believing that obese women's farts are toxic and cause mental retardation. At the time that I made the video about that problem, it was a real problem. That was 2014. But let me clarify this. It's referring to women over 300 pounds, and it does not affect obese men. And it has something to do with the biochemistry or the hormones, I think, that are created in an extremely fat woman, a woman who's she has to be of over 300 pounds for it to be a problem. And if a woman over 300 pounds farts, apparently the farts are toxic and can produce mental retardation. In fact, it happened to President Bush when Ludmila at that time, Ludmila Putin, she was a Jesuit. She weighed over 300 pounds. She went to visit Bush because Bush wasn't cooperating with her in the Jesuit conspiracy to make her Vladimir's wife. Actually, the Jesuits created Ludmila. She's a clone. They created her in a cloning lab to compete with me when Vladimir fell in love with me in 2001. And they sicked her on Vladimir when he came to visit Bush at his Crawford ranch in Texas and started printing a bunch of lying articles. Actually, Vladimir is a widower. His wife's name was Larissa, and she died in, I believe it was 2000. And then he noticed me, and he fell in love with me. And then they created a clone of his dead wife, Larissa, who's not a very good clone because her coloring is a little off. Because Larissa was a summer in coloring, studied Color Me Beautiful by Carol Jackson, and Ludmila is an autumn in coloring. And so they were different, and that's how you can tell between the clone and. But anyways, to make a long story short, President Bush did suffer from a little bit from retardation. You know, to be honest with you, I don't think it's as much of a problem now as it was in 2014. See, the way the Jesuits work is something strange will happen as a result, you know, of the fact that the news media lies to you about 80 to 90% of the time. Most of the lies are stuff they don't report rather than stuff they do report, though the lies go both ways. And since they don't report on it, and because I do, though Gabriel Chan of Fox News 00 on cable will report on this stuff. But you don't get, that's not mainstream news, and you don't get it everywhere because the Jesuits are blocking it in certain parts of the world. But anyways, what I think, let me see, actually, see this? My men gave this to me in 2014. I've never had to use it. And see, you might say, are you worried about getting retarded from obese women's farts? Nope. You say, well, how can you make a video warning the world to be careful of obese women's farts and that these women need to wear a butt plug? That turned out became a problem. And I even went over that with my men. I said, you know, how can they do this? And we had problems with women exploding from the butt plug and we actually created canisters where they could go and release their farts safely. And then we would shoot the canisters up into outer space so that nobody would have to breathe it. But I think they've come up with a much more efficient way of dealing with the problem. And let me tell you what I think. This is my guess. And from what I've been told, I am a member of Mensa, a secret member of Mensa. So I'm a very smart woman. My men have not brought it up since 2014. So my guess is that the problem has been solved so that it's not a major issue anymore. And that's why the Jesuits can now bring this up and say, oh, she's crazy. She believes that. Let me tell you why I'm not worried about it. You say so you make a video. You must be kidding. You're just playing games with us. You didn't. I really believed at the time that with obese women over 300 pounds farts are toxic, and they might still be toxic. However, I was told that because I have regular brain-to-brain loving with Brent Spiner, that his semen kind of inoculates me from the effects of obese women's farts. So they said, even though they did go to the trouble, some Church of Gail members named Melanie and Tyrone, actually we went out to the Olive Garden restaurant, and they gave this to me because they were worried. They said, if you get around a really obese woman, you might want to wear this, but I've never had to wear it. But they said, but then maybe it won't be a problem for you because Brent Spiner's semen, which you get with the brain-to-brain loving, you may say, how does that work? Brain-to-brain, to get brain-to-brain communications, you have to be put into the network, the satellite network. And the connections are from satellite signals. And you might say, how would you get semen brain-to-brain? It's through the satellite signals. But the matter changes, the electrical property of the matter changes, so it's not as strong as the original matter, but I still get it. And it's true, because I had brain-to-brain loving with Zach Knight in 2012, and he was able to impregnate me via brain-to-brain loving alone. That is UFO technology, very advanced, not reported on in mainstream news. They can actually transmit semen brain-to-brain. So anyways, so that's why I'm immune. Let me tell you what I think's going on. You notice how these Jesuits are dropping semen bombs all over the world? Well, I think they've put something in that semen, which is now giving everybody immunity to the obese women's farts, just like I get it from Brent Spiner's semen. So that's probably why it's no longer an issue and why my men haven't brought it up. Either my men or the Jesuits we are all breathing in stuff from these bombs they're dropping over our head like crazy. Most of it's bad. Most of the stuff we're breathing in is bad. It's making us, it's enhancing Lori McBride's ability to do brain control. But my guess is the Jesuits or my men may have been dropping bombs worldwide to solve that problem, so that even if an obese woman, a woman over 300 pounds, farts next to you, you may not become retarded, because it might be the equivalent of Brent Spiner's semen and all the bombs dropped over our head. So that would, but no, I wasn't kidding. When I made that video in 2014, it was a problem. And I said, so I told Vladimir, I said, wow, Ludmila did this to President George W. Bush. That must mean he can't function. And this is what Vladimir said, which is kind of funny. He said, oh no. He said, most U.S. politicians are retards anyway. He said that they function fine in the United States. I thought that was so funny. Actually, judging by the behavior of a lot of them, I think it's true. Okay, let's go move on to another topic. You say, what about nukkake? We don't see nukkake. So you say there was a nukkake that hit Canada in 2011, and that was the first nukkake. We were not familiar with this horrible Jesuit technology. That was the first one, and so it was disastrous because we weren't prepared. In fact, I even went online and told people they needed to put up shields because there would be more nukkakes. They didn't believe me. Actually, no, what happened was the Jesuits put up a false report and said the nukkake had been averted, which was a lie. And as a result of that, the nukkake hit Canada and it just obliterated Canada. And if you want more about that, listen to my live stream, the over an hour-long video. You may say, well, how come there have been more nukkake since then? Some of them have actually hit ground, but the news does not report on it. But most of them were able to block by putting up shields. We've developed new technology as a result of studying studying the Jesuit nukkake technology. We have a nanotechnology research team. So just because we put up shields doesn't mean they don't exist or that they haven't been used. Actually, there's been a nukkake blitzkrieg. I think millions of nukkake have been launched since 2011. Most of them we were able to put a shield over the area and stop the nukkake
before it hits land. But there have been some instances where the nukkakes have still hit. However, because we have shield technology up over most of the world, the only areas where the nukkakes can hit is where either the shield is malfunctioning or it's not working. Or the Jesuits might be launching the nukkake from underneath the shield. They might have figured out how to do that. But once we figure out that they're doing that, if we have time, we can go in there and put in another shield or do something to avert the drop or do something to minimize the damage. But they have launched other nukkakes. These are usually smaller in range than the one that hit Canada because we've developed shield technology to deal with that. So, you know, these people that make fun of me for the videos that I make, they're the real dodo birds. Anybody who believes you're getting the truth from mainstream media has got to be stupid. Any person with an IQ over 100 can tell that the mainstream media is lying to us. So if they obviously lie to us about things that are obvious, like, you know, stuff about, they put out a bunch of crap out there about President Trump, about Tulsi Gabbard, you know, about anybody who won't be Lori McBride's cuck. And, you know, anybody with a brain can tell you're being lied to. So obviously, if they're lying to you about that stuff, why wouldn't they lie to you about the stuff that I report on? Since I am exposing the leader of the deep state, which is Lori McBride, the Jesuit order is a very powerful organization. They've been stealing money from the world since the 1500s. Their expertise is infiltration, and they use the latest in science. They have UFO technology. Okay, let's go on to another subject, the homosexuals. Jesus told me he doesn't have a problem with gays, and some Christians will point out passages like Leviticus 18. But if you'll notice, every biblical passage needs to be taken in context. Yes, there is a verse in the Bible that says mankind shall not lie with mankind like he does with womankind. That's an abomination before the Lord. You got to understand the context of the passage. The context of the passage, he opens up chapter 18 as, I don't want Israel to be like the heathen nations that you go in to conquer. Don't adopt their practices. And he lists a whole bunch of things in there. Homosexuality is one of them, but he lists a lot of other things. And I know there are verses in the New Testament, but that Leviticus 18 is one of the most clear-cut. Actually, the Bible doesn't have a lot of verses that directly and specifically address homosexuality. But Jesus told me he prefers the man-woman relationship. And you'll get that in my Bible for Tribulation Saints, where I have exact quotes from Jesus as transcribed by Brent Spiner, which is the only source about Jesus that I trust that's outside of what is understood to be the biblical canon. But he said he doesn't. Basically, my impression of Jesus is, he's got a reputation as a cock blocker and he hates it. But the context of Leviticus 18 is, you just read the first two verses. He just didn't want them to be like the heathen nations around them. And basically, they were steeped in the sin of idolatry. So any sexual practice, whether it be homosexuality, there are a lot of other sexual sins that were outlined in that chapter besides homosexuality. Basically, any sin that is selfish, dangerous, like making love to a close relative is generally not a good idea, and he condemns that there too, is condemned because it's either unhealthy or a sin. Basically, if you commit a sexual act for lust and not for love, regardless of what type of sexual act it is, like adultery, that's sin. That would include homosexuality. So basically what Jesus is saying is, it's not so much homosexuality that he condemns, but lust. So when you read Bible passages that condemn sexual sins, you must understand that they're referring to lust or selfish sin. Selfish sex. If the sex is unselfish and not done for lust but for love, then it's cool. So that's how you can tell if your sexual practice is okay. So the homosexuality is not the problem. It's lustful sex, whether it be homosexuality or any type of sex. If it's pure lust, then it's a sin.